Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Johanna Chan. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. COVID infections remain high, with over 6,000 new cases and 15 deaths. Patients waiting outside public hospitals in the cold have finally been moved in. And the closure of an abattoir where workers contracted the virus sends pork prices higher. Hong Kong has registered more than 6,000 new COVID infections for the second time in 3 days, while suspected cases hit another record. 15 more people died, taking the fatality toll in the fifth wave to 61. Isaac Lee reports.
There was more grim news today. Hong Kong added 6,063 COVID cases, just slightly lower than the record set just 2 days ago. Only 4 were imported. But there's concern that the numbers will keep rising, as preliminary positive cases reached 7,400, a new high. 15 more lives were lost to the virus. 10 men and 5 women, aged between 50 and 99. Only 2 of them were vaccinated. Health authorities said of the other 46 people who succumbed to COVID since the beginning of the fifth wave, only 6 were vaccinated. 4 of the 6 were double-jabbed. There's concern about several COVID patients in hospital.
We have over 10 patients in critical conditions. Their age range from 45 to 93. And for the serious, we also have several dozens of patients in serious condition. For the HA staff, I think the cumulative, we have already a few hundreds of staff have been tested COVID positive.
Infections have been found in another 30 care homes, taking the number of such facilities affected to 190. So far in the fifth wave, 450 residents and 120 employees have been infected. Health authorities also revealed that there were outbreaks in a number of construction sites, including the Chung Kwan O Lam Tin Tunnel. But unlike previous waves, the sites were ordered to be disinfected, instead of suspending work for 2 weeks. The hospital authority again apologized to those who were forced to stay outside public hospitals in the chilly weather. The few still outdoors are waiting for a triage or a COVID test. Isaac Lee, HKIBC.
COVID patients who have been waiting outside hospitals for beds inside have finally got some relief, just as a cold spell hits the city. With normal wards overwhelmed by the large number of patients, the authorities have been forced to turn to other indoor facilities. Here's Isaac Lee again.
Although the temperature in Sham Shui Po dropped to 12 degrees Celsius this morning, some people, including this child, still had to wait outside Caritas Hospital. But the situation was better than a few days earlier, when large numbers of COVID patients were stuck outside public hospitals, waiting for beds inside. Hospital Authority Chief Executive Tony Ko apologized for the chaos. He said most of the patients have been sent home or moved into various areas in hospitals.
In some of the patients, we arrange patients to be sort of temporarily located in some of the premises, like some of our big halls, or like some of the outpatient areas, or day patient areas, or sometimes even in the physiotherapy gymnasium. In these kind of settings, there are reasonable space and ventilation.
Meanwhile, some care homes for the elderly have been accused of negligence for not picking up residents who have been discharged from hospital after recovering from COVID.
The primary responsibility of taking care of discharged patients returning to the homes is the responsibility lies with the operator. And if they don't do that, basically they can be violating the code of practice. And therefore, the Social Welfare Department would have the power to enforce that.
But Law said he understood that many care homes are understaffed and pledged to provide financial and material support. Isaac Lee, HKIBC.
The mainland is offering Hong Kong more help to push back the fifth wave. Dozens of experts have arrived to help carry out tests, while construction teams will build isolation units for COVID patients. Chloe Feng reports.
首先呢，我喺呢度代表港市民 At a groundbreaking ceremony in Penny's Bay this afternoon, Chief Executive Carrie Lam said mainland construction teams will help build 10,000 isolation units for COVID patients. The facilities in Penny's Bay and Kai Tak will be constructed quickly to ease a chronic shortage. Lam said another 20,000 units will be available in hotels, sports stadiums, and public housing estates. More mainland experts, meanwhile, have arrived to help Hong Kong battle COVID. 4 critical care specialists, accompanied by 110 testing staff, were welcomed at Shenzhen Bay Port by Health Chief Sophia Chan and Mainland Affairs Minister Eric Tan. The delegation was taken to a Satin hotel, where team leader Zhang Yuzhen said he is confident that Hong Kong can beat the virus. But Zhang, who is deputy director of the Guangdong Provincial Health Commission, said members of his team have to follow local anti-epidemic rules to achieve the best result. Many of the testing staff are from Guangdong hospitals. Chloe Fong, HKIBC.
Pork prices have soared after an abattoir was closed when some workers contracted COVID. But on a brighter note, vegetable prices fell as fresh supplies from the mainland arrived by sea. The slaughterhouse in Shangshui was forced to suspend operations yesterday after more than 80 workers tested positive for COVID. Although the pigs were moved to the abattoir in Chunwan, supplies fell and sent prices higher. This woman said pork was around $80 a catty, but while it was more expensive, she wanted to stick to fresh meat. This man decided not to buy fresh pork after hearing why the slaughterhouse had to shut down. He said frozen meat would be safer. Butchers admitted that some customers were scared off by the price. But there was good news on the vegetables front. At around 6 this morning, large containers arrived by sea from the mainland. Instead of regular cargo, they were filled with vegetables. There was a drastic shortage of greens in the city recently because cross-border lorry drivers were quarantined. That led to a price hike, while drivers who were not in isolation demanded double their fees. But the situation has improved, with supply reaching close to normal levels. Prices have fallen, and this man said he paid $19 for 2 caddies of vegetables, almost half of the cost a few days ago. Mainland authorities are on the alert for people trying to sneak across the border from Hong Kong, bringing with them the coronavirus. This comes as measures are taken to stop COVID from spreading in the north of the country. Chloe Fong reports.
The COVID epicenter on the mainland appears to have moved from the southern border of Guangxi to the north. Inner Mongolia reported 46 locally transmitted cases yesterday, more than double the 22 infections on Thursday. Most of the cases were in the capital Hohhot, a city with nearly 2.9 million people. A few buildings were locked down after a cleaner tested positive. Some people who were visiting their relatives at the time were not allowed to go home. Another 34 cases were reported in other parts of the mainland yesterday, with 19 in Suzhou near Shanghai. Meanwhile, a new threat is emerging in the south as Hong Kong battles its worst outbreak. 15 people entered Zhuhai illegally by boat from Hong Kong, and at least 4 of them who had COVID traveled to other parts of the mainland. Flights between Zhuhai and Beijing were suspended as a result. The authorities are on high alert and are offering rewards for information on those who smuggle people into the mainland, which is trying to maintain its zero COVID policy. Chloe Fong, HKIBC.
Overseas, U.S. President Joe Biden says he has reason to believe that Russia has decided to invade Ukraine in the coming days.
We're calling out Russia's plans loudly and repeatedly, not because we want a conflict, but because we're doing everything in our power to remove any reason that Russia may give to justify invading Ukraine and prevent them from moving. Make no mistake, if Russia pursues its plans, it will be responsible for a catastrophic and needless war of choice.
As Biden spoke, a long line of vehicles left eastern Ukraine, taking civilians to Russia. The people were told to leave by Russian-backed separatist commanders as tensions escalated. Moscow admits it has troops along the border, but says they are on Russian territory and accused the West of hysteria with its inflammatory rhetoric. The mood deepened when a bomb destroyed a car in the separatist-controlled city of Donetsk. It's not known who was responsible. In the United States, relatives of a black man shot dead by a policewoman who mistook her handgun for her taser have condemned her sentence. Kimberly Potter, who was convicted of killing Daunte Wright, was jailed for 2 years instead of 7 as the prosecution had demanded.
Kim Potter murdered my son, and he died April 11th. Today, the justice system murdered him all over again. To sit there and watch, pouring my heart out in my big impact statement that took so long to write, and I reread it over and over again, to not get a response out of the judges. But then when it came down to convicting, or to sentencing Kim Potter, she broke out in tears.
Potter, will you please rise?
Potter, who resigned after the shooting in Minneapolis, was found guilty of first-degree and second-degree manslaughter in December. Judge Regina True described Potter as a cop who made a tragic mistake. The judge became emotional during the sentencing. That and the light sentence angered relatives and supporters of Daunte Wright.
People in our community have got sentenced greater time for selling marijuana than she got for killing our cousin. Let that sink in. There are black people in prison serving greater time for selling marijuana, which is legal in most states, than this police officer got for killing this young black man.
On to the weather now. Have your umbrellas ready as there will be more frequent rain tomorrow. Also, wrap up warmly as the temperature will range between 8 and 10 degrees. It will remain cold and rainy in the coming days. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Saturday night. Join us for more news at 10. I'm Johanna Chan. Good evening.